Hey everybody, thanks for joining me. It's Betsy from the Greetery, and I have a video today giving you some tips for embossing die cuts. So I have been loving our embossing folders and that match a lot of our dies. The problem comes sometimes you want to emboss as your last step so that you're not flattening out that beautiful embossing by die cutting for the second step. But that can get a little tricky if you're working with a lot of die cuts and positioning them in the folder and running them through. So I'm going to give you a little trick today for doing that. So we're going to be using the new Wholehearted die, which is a 5x7 die that cuts all these hearts in one go. It actually coordinates with our Coquette Hearts embossing folder. It can emboss all of those hearts. So I'm going to show you how you can do that in one pass and without a lot of tricky positioning in the folder. So to do this, we're going to be using some press and seal. If you don't have press and seal in your craft room, I'd suggest grabbing a roll next time you go to the store. It's a super handy little tool to have in your craft room. So I'm going to be starting with a piece of press and seal. Now we're going to be running it through with our embossing folder through our die cut machine, and sometimes when you do that it can get really stuck to your paper. So before we start, I'm going to go ahead and I have an old towel here. It's just a towel out of my scrap bin, and I am going to kind of condition my press and seal by pressing it, just laying it on this towel and lifting it and removing it a few times just to grab a little bit of lint. Lint in this case is a good thing. We just want to condition this just a little bit so it's not quite so sticky. You could also use like an embossing buddy pouch, which is basically a pouch full of cornstarch, but I found doing that it's really easy to overdo it. So I found just using a towel and pressing it a few times to get just a little bit of lint on our press and seal. So then we're going to go ahead and we're going to die cut all of these hearts using our Wholehearted die. I have a 5x7 piece of cardstock, and I'm just going to position that die on my cardstock, and I'll go ahead and run that through my die cut machine. Okay, so that is die cut. Before I remove my sandwich, remove my cutting plates, I'm going to actually just go ahead and take my entire sandwich and turn it upside down. I had a few little die cuts pop out. That's okay, we'll catch those later. I'm gonna go ahead now and leave so the back side of my die cuts is facing upward, and I'm going to take our conditioned sheet of press and seal and put it over the top of our die cuts and collect those all on our sheet of press and seal. Go ahead and flip it over, and then I can go ahead and remove the die and leave the die cuts and the negative all in position. If anything shifts out of place, just go ahead and reposition it. Then I'm going to take a scissors and I'm going to trim off any excess from the top edge of our panel. Sides and bottom don't matter. You can leave the excess in place. It's actually going to help us, but I don't want any excess along the top. So now we're going to go ahead and take our Coquette Hearts embossing folder, and we're going to position our cardstock panel that's stuck to our press and seal. We're going to go ahead and position that right inside of our folder, and those die cut edges are going to help us align everything. Make sure you have it nice and centered. Some good spots to look for. Make sure this heart over here on the way left side with the rose in the middle has a border just in the interior of the cut, so that's a good one to look for. And also this one as well in the lower right corner. Same thing. and just take a look all the way around to make sure that everything's nicely lined up. I can go ahead and close my folder, and I'm just going to kind of use the press and seal to, I'm not going to wrap it around the edges. I did try that and it ends up being just really kind of stuck to the folder. Not a big deal, you can get it off, but I found just kind of pulling it up and securing it around those edges. And then I can go ahead and run it through my die cutting machine. So I'm using a Spellbinders Platinum 6, so our sandwich is the platform base, and then our embossing folder with our paper inside, topped off with a D adapter plate. So I went ahead and ran that through, and then we can open up our folder and see all of our beautifully embossed die cuts, which are still stuck to our press and seal, but now we can go ahead and peel them off. If you find that they're really super stuck to the back to your press and seal, go ahead and reuse this press and seal sheet. It actually will get kind of better the second, third, and fourth time you use the sheet because it will maintain its stickiness, but it won't be quite as sticky as the first time you use it. And look at all of our beautifully embossed hearts. We did that in one easy pass through our machine. So the second method I'm going to be showing you uses our shortbread shaped scalloped hearts embossing folder and matching die. So this is great to do with any embossing folder. You can use the same concept with any folder and matching die cuts. So this second method, we are going to be creating just a little bit of a sticky surface right onto our embossing folder using the press and seal. So I'm going to open up my folder and I'm going to put a sheet of press and seal right inside my folder with the sticky side down onto what is kind of they call it the male portion of the embossing folder. So it's the side that you would want to put your paper on top of when you're closing your folder. So I'm putting sticky side down right onto the folder. I'm going to close it up and run it through my die cut machine. So I'm back and we can open up our folder, and that press and seal is pretty stuck to our folder. I'm just going to go ahead and peel it away. This is just going to give our whole entire folder a tacky surface, and you can repeat this as needed. But now what we can do is we can go ahead and take our die cuts, and I have these, which I cut with our shortbread shapes, scalloped hearts die. It's just a whole bunch of those small hearts. So then what I could do is I can just go ahead and lay my die cuts on my tacky surface of my folder, and they'll stay nicely in place so that I don't have to worry about them shifting around, and I can position them and then just go ahead and close up my folder and run it through my machine. And if you need a little help releasing them from the folder, you can always use a piercing tool to get them started so you can pull them away from the tacky folder. And there we were able to emboss all of these beautiful hearts much easier with that little bit of tacky surface to hold them all in place. Thanks so much for joining me, everyone. I hope you enjoyed these tips and tricks for embossing your die cuts. We'll see you soon.